I'm Mary Jo Kestner. I'm the chair of the Guilford Affordable Housing Commission, and we're lucky to have a good turnout of other commissioners here today, and I would just like to recognize them so you know who they are. We have Rita DeTola in the front, our recording secretary, Barbara Booth, our technical advisor, Christy Rubendunst in the back there, making a big difference. Valerie Votto is here. I think we have actually Brian McGlone on deck, but we have to get him formally appointed. I see Gloria in the back. She's our rep from the Guilford Housing Authority.
Ed, raise your hand.
Oh yeah, Ed Seibert. NeighborWorks New Horizons, big affordable housing advocate for many years, and my co-chair, Pete Colburn. So we're also helped by a number of other folks here you'll see on the screen, including some consultants from SCROG, the South Central Regional Council of Governments, and they've been helping towns regionally with housing initiatives. And we're going to show a movie in just a couple minutes that they have produced of a tour of housing in Connecticut. So we are, if you've been to one of these before, you know we're a pretty new commission, but we are very interested in working with the other town land use boards. This is sort of the way we fit into the town process, but really the big thing we're trying to do is listen to the residents of Guilford about what kind of housing you think we should have here. The commission was formed by the Board of Selectmen with a couple of very specific goals to promote public awareness and understanding of housing issues, affordable housing issues, advise and interact with other municipal agencies to develop that housing. And really the goal is a variety of housing at a variety of price points. So it's not just the lowest rent or cost to buy, but we know that the average cost of housing is quickly getting out of reach for people. And we need to have everybody be able to live here. So in order to address that as a committee, we've done some work on a strategic plan, which is going to kind of lay out our next steps. And Pete's going to spend just a few minutes going through that, and then we're going to jump into the housing video. So Pete.
All right, can you hear me all fine? All right, great, thanks. Thanks for being here tonight. We're really glad to have you all. The video ought to be pretty exciting. If we can get it started with all the challenges we've had so far. What I'd like to do is just spend a few minutes talking about what we're doing, specifically moving forward to make progress on this project to improve the housing situation in town. Our plan that we put together was really born out of two documents. That first of all, the ordinance that the town put together creating the commission, and secondly, using as a basis the affordable housing plan that was created in 2022. And we took from that a number of strategies and actions and tactics that we've put together as our strategic plan. And within that, there are some key areas of focus that we've got. And those include public engagement, of which this is part of, the working with other municipal groups and state groups within the affordable housing sphere, and then trying to maintain what we've got and work on preserving the housing supply as well as generating new opportunities. Also included in the work is trying to identify funding sources. If any of you were in the last community conversation we had, it's pretty apparent that a lot of the issues that we have related to cost and creating affordable housing includes the fact that it's difficult to build anything and be able to sell it at a cost that many people can afford. So there's work to be done on that. And part of that includes getting funding from sources to help us along the way. A big part of what we intend to do is work on zoning and policy structures to find ways to create more affordable housing in town, and then, of course, improving our capability as a commission to be more effective moving forward. This is a big slide. It has a lot of information on it. I don't want to ask you to digest it all right now. I just wanted to hit a few key points on it, and that is how we identified some of the priorities that we have within all this. Part of it is related to the outreach that we do and the community engagement. So, again, having this meeting tonight, this type of thing. Also, want to be able to identify locations that we can create affordable housing in town. If you've lived here for a long time, you know that there's a lot of challenges related to that. Most of the places that are buildable are already used, and so there aren't too many sites available that we can build on. What we can do, though, is start focusing on some of the ways that we have our
redevelopment or
no, actually what I was thinking of was the planning and zoning requirements that we have, and making sure that we can modify those to allow us to build different types of housing in different places throughout town. One of the challenges today is that there's quite a number of limits in terms of what we can do where, and that prevents us from doing things like multifamily housing and that type of thing. Even two-family houses are pretty limited within town. So if we can increase the ability to do that in different areas and modify the regulations to allow us to change that to a wider scope where we can do that sort of thing, then that'll bring us a long way to try to improve things. That's really most of what we have in terms of priorities. There's also looking at other sources of information related to what we can do, for example, with wastewater treatment. That's all very expensive and difficult to do, but the limitations that we have in sewer and water in town also limit what we can do. So those are the high points of what we're looking at. There are some other things that we're doing in the background to make ourselves more effective, and we plan to keep working on it and see what we can do to make things better here. So having said that, we'll get started with the video here. It might take us a minute to get it started with some of the things that we had to set up here, but we'll get going. And Christy Rubendunst is going to pass out some information. There are some questions we'd like you to think about and talk about after the video is shown, and we'll sit down and talk about those things afterwards. Thank you. So, here we go.
What we're doing here is looking at what we like to consider and what we know at our agency is what affordable housing looks like. And the idea behind this tour, when I was working with David on planning this, was to position this tour to try to demystify what people assume is affordable housing. We're going to be touring, I believe, at least 4 developments. And so they're going to be a mixed-use space. There's one with standalone condos, and it's going to be great. But either way, I just want to thank everybody for being, taking time out of your day to be part of this. The work that you do on your respective commissions is critical to the work that we're trying to do at SCROG, which is empower our municipalities to build more affordable housing and build more multifamily style housing, smaller units to match up with the demographics that we live with. So I'll turn it over to David now and let him do his thing. So thank you, everyone.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming along. The takeaway goal for you guys today is we want you to understand there are different configurations of housing that can be done. We want you to meet the developers and know what goes through their mind when they look at a potential project. So in each case we'll ask the developers, how did you know there was a market for this housing? And how did you decide to build what you decided to build? Second, how did you finance it? Because as you know, it's always land cost, labor cost, and material cost. But those costs can be defrayed by towns. Towns give tax abatements, they give density bonuses, they relax parking requirements, they do a lot of things that can make the bottom line work for development. So we'll talk about that. The last thing I want you to really understand is that there are builders and developers out there who are not pigs. They are willing to earn less on a development and make some of the units income restricted for the people we need in the towns. And these are good developers, they're smart, they know how to make things work. So that is the goal of this. We purposely chose 5 different configurations for this. The first we'll see are townhomes in Wallingford, just done by a wonderful guy named Bob Wiedemann. I talked to him, he's waiting to meet us. Next will be single-family condominiums. They look like single-family homes. They're freestanding condominiums, also in Wallingford, 84 of them on a former industrial site done by another wonderful builder. The way she did that was she got an industrial site, converted it, the town agreed to it, and what we found there was that the way she worked it out, every homeowner has a 6-foot wide strip around the perimeter of each unit. They can do their own landscaping, they can do whatever they want around there, and then the property management firm takes care of the rest of the property. The third place we'll go to is in Milford. It's called Muse Milford. It's off the Merritt Parkway, off of Wheeler's Farms Road. It was just done by a man named Howard Rappaport, who actually grew up in Woodbridge, and it is congregate units, apartment house, beautiful, with a central pool, chaise lounges, clubhouse, excellent. Again, he did that. That was the first 2 were friendly 830Gs. I think you're familiar with the term and the statute. Wallingford worked with the builders to allow them to happen. They knew that they were under 10%, and so they agreed rather than fight, let's work with the builder, and they did. In Milford, it was not a friendly 830G. The residents were opposed, but it moved ahead, and it's a beautiful development. Fourth, we'll go and see some infill development in Milford, south part of Milford. Again, as I understand it, David Sulkus, the Director of Planning, will meet us there and explain how this was done. This was not a friendly 830G. This was also opposed by the residents, but as you can see, as in the other places, there's not whatever people worried about. There's not graffiti on the walls and use syringes on the ground and bullets flying through the air, and there's no picket signs outside. It's perfectly beautiful, and you can see how they did that. Any questions?
When you say, oh, this development was not a friendly 830G, it kind of makes me think that 830G is friendly and the other way is not friendly.
Well, 830G is a statute that says that if less than 10% of the housing stock in your town is income restricted and guaranteed to remain that way for people at 80 or 60% of median income, a developer under state statute is able to come into your town, buy a piece of property, and override the local zoning and put up mixed income housing. And the burden of proof is on the town to stop it. The town must show that this development would threaten public health or safety. Some towns have found, and you can get to know Kevin Pagini from Wallingford, the very talented Director of Planning there. Wallingford has learned over the years, being under 10%, there's no point spending a lot of time and tens of thousands of dollars fighting a developer when they know they're going to lose. So what they do is they work with the developer, and that's called a friendly 830G. And my town in West Hartford and other towns around the state have learned there's no point in fighting this. On the other hand, some towns are inclined to say our residents, the neighboring residents, don't want this to happen, and so they do fight it. They fight it in court, and they generally lose. But that's up to the town, and it's not for us to say what towns ought to do. But that's what my point is about a friendly 830G, towns recognizing they're under 10% and work with the developer, versus unfriendly where the developer and the town are at odds. Development. Bob is...
And my daughter, Amy.
Bob is a wonderful guy and a really talented developer. He's done a lot of work in this town and some neighboring towns, and he agreed to be out here and show us his new beautiful project. So, Bob, I'll turn it
I'll
over
give
to
you
you.
like a 2-minute overview of the site. So this site is 3.5 acres. We have 36 units here, 11 which are affordable. It was done under the 830G program that I'm sure most of all of you are familiar with. So we have 6 units at 80% area median income and 5 at 60%. And Amy can tell you a little more about those qualification number and what the numbers are. And the rest are all market rate. And again, you can talk about maybe the dollar rents we get. They're all 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhouses, about 1,300 square feet. They're a little bit large. This is the first time I've done one under 830G. I've been involved with affordable housing in the process, but never built one myself until this one. We built this, started about 2.5 years ago and finished the last unit last March. The one thing we learned is that we probably built the units a little too large, because the affordable units are based on the number of bedrooms. Doesn't matter how many square feet it is, doesn't matter how many bathrooms it is or how fancy they are, it's all about bedroom count. So we're getting a pretty big discount for our affordable units versus a market rate. What I would do if I was doing it again would be to make the units a little bit smaller so the differential isn't as bad and we wouldn't be punished, so to speak, for the affordable units. That's probably the one thing we sort of learned on this one. Very strong market here in Wallingford. They have low electric rate. These are all electric heat with electric heat pumps. Utilities bills around $150 a month typically for all your electric costs and heating and cooling. They all have their own in-house or in-unit laundries. They're all exactly finished the same. One thing we're able to do in Wallingford, typically with affordable, you have to keep them sort of similar to your market rate ones. What we're trying to do, what we did here is made them all identical. And we were able to work out with the town, if we have a vacant unit, an affordable vacant unit, we obviously keep it vacant. And if we have market rate, we keep a market rate. But if we have somebody that's in an affordable unit and their qualifications change, as you may know, in for sale unit, you only have to qualify once the day you buy it. And then you can get a huge raise and you're still in your affordable unit. With rental, we have to requalify every year. So what we're doing here, we said, listen, we hate to have to throw somebody out. You could be a 60% tenant today, you get a raise, great for you, and now we have to ask you to leave or move to a market rate unit if we have one available, which probably didn't make any sense. So what we agreed with the town was, if we have somebody who doesn't qualify for 60 and maybe move to an 80 or an 80 into a market rate, they'll be allowed to stay without moving, but the next available unit will become either 60 or 80% to take its place. So I quite honestly, I don't know if even 830G really says that, but it was agreed by the town, and I think it makes sense. We don't want, the whole thing I always look at this is, we're trying to create affordable housing and create housing in general, and why would we throw somebody out that wants to be here? So we try to make it make sense, and I think that just makes sense. And I'm all about common sense. I don't like the rules and regulation. I deal with them all the time. And I'm not going to impose that on other people if I can avoid it. So, hey, why don't you just talk a minute about just the price points for the tenants, and then maybe a little bit the demographics.
Sure, absolutely. So my market rate units in my buildings without garages, those are going to rent from between about $2,300 to $2,500 a month. My garage units rent for $2,600 to $2,700 a month. My affordable units at a 60% unit, meaning that you have to make under $60,000 a year, those are renting for $1,385. And my 80% units that you have to make under $80,000 a year, those are renting for $1,829.
And that's without garages.
Yes. The agreement with the town was we did not have to have any of our garage units as marked affordable. So all of our affordables are in the other 3 buildings. The majority of our demographics are mostly young singles here, professionals, a lot of people in the healthcare industry is what most of the units are in. My units that are market rate are a lot of couples. My affordable units are almost all singles. The only ones that have more than one person is I've got a retired couple, so they're on a fixed income. But usually with a single income, once you go to a dual income, you don't no longer qualify for the affordable.
How many children?
I only have 2 units here with children.
So the idea that mixed income, multifamily housing is going to bring hordes of school children, you're not
Yeah.
finding that?
Not at all.
No,
Not at
we
all.
have one student in school in the whole
Yeah.
complex from an age standpoint.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a few questions. I know other people will have
Yep.
questions, but I wanted to know if you could deal with 3. First is, how did you decide there was a market for this? How does a developer, a builder, kind of assess that and know that you could rent these places?
Okay. So obviously demographics, and I mean, everybody knows there's such a limit of housing of any sort. This was originally it wasn't mine, but it was a contractor's yard. He had an office building here and his warehouse and stuff was here. He retired and since passed away. Donnie Ahern, who was a well-known developer here for 50 years or 60 years. It was really could have been a three lot subdivision. That's all we would have gotten here for density was 3 units. So without going with the 830G, there was nothing in the regulation that would have allowed any sort of density like this. So we just felt that there was a real need. There has not been a lot of affordable or any apartment or rental units. We chose townhouses because I'm mostly a single family builder, and single family and townhouses are very similar. We start getting into multifamily with common hallways and elevators. It just changes the construction and all that kind of stuff. We also have to build them all at once. We're relatively small builders, so we're able to build one building, move over to the one. We got those 2 buildings done. We were able to start renting those while we were building over here. So it really helped us from a standpoint of that. It really the market said we need more apartments, and that's what we went to. We originally thought we would be probably just under $2,000 for rent. So the rents obviously have gone up through the roof over the last 2 years or 3 years, as everybody's seen. So that's really helped us with the overall pricing of it all. The affordable units, I sort of hate affordable. It's really market rate units and mixed income or workforce housing units. I mean, everybody gets freaked out. I just have another project we're getting ready to start, which we're just starting construction on for 10 units. And the whole town found out that we're building affordable, and they're going crazy. I'm hearing all sorts of stuff on social media, how we're ruining the neighborhood. It's in a single family neighborhood. There's 10 units, 3 affordable units, but everybody thinks we're bringing in the wrong sort of people. Well, we can show you right here, it's not the wrong kind of people. These are great tenants. Some make a little less money than others, but we've had tremendous tenants here. So there's 36 in total, 11 of which are affordable.
Is it water and sewer?
Yes.
We are on water and sewer here. So
Town
yeah,
water and sewer.
town water and sewer. And
How did you determine the density?
it was really based on what we could realistically fit with the style of housing we wanted to do, and obviously the parking is a requirement that sort of also controls it. We're just over 2 or 2.5 spaces per unit, which probably a little heavy. As you go out, we'll have you go out this way. When you leave, there's sort of an auxiliary parking lot as you go back out onto the road with about 20 spaces, and they don't get used a lot. It's more it's guests and that sort of thing. There's enough parking here within the complex to really handle the parking. So density is sort of dictated by parking and the size of your buildings. The project was originally approved for an apartment building, kind of on this end of the site. 3 stories, elevator building with common hallway. Again, we didn't want to build that, so we kind of redesigned the site. We bought another half acre from adjoining property to enlarge the site. Okay.
Attic space?
There's the attic space, because of our insulation requirements, we typically don't go to the attic any longer. It's just too expensive. But everybody has their own basements. No, it's not shared. Everybody's individual. So from a marketing standpoint, what we wanted to do was we said we have a lot of people that want apartment living. They like that concept. Maybe don't want to be in a common hallway, especially when we're coming out of COVID. We're thinking common hallways, maybe people don't like it. Everybody's got their own entrance, own parking space, in-house or in-unit laundry. So, and in-unit storage. And they also have outdoor space, either patios or decks on every single unit. So those are some of the features that you might get here that you wouldn't get, say, in a typical apartment style building.
Bob?
Yep.
When you think about financing a project like this, obviously land, labor, and materials,
Yep.
Towns can help sometimes by giving you a density bonus or relaxing the parking requirement or a tax abatement.
Yep.
Can you explain to everybody what, if they're going to deal with a builder, what they may want to think about, and how you think about a bottom line where you make a profit, but
So yeah, it's all dollars and cents for us, and it's dollars and cents, but it's also the ease of the process. If the town were against us and going to fight us all the way, quite honestly, I wouldn't have done it. Wallingford's been very supportive of affordable housing. I know you're going over to see Liz Vernon's site later. That was done 10 or 12 years ago. And a little different style, but she was the first one. And so Wallingford's always been very supportive. And I would suggest that anyone should, if you want affordable housing, you want more housing in general, you have to make it easy. We're going wherever it's easy. I'm a businessman. I'm not going to go fight against the establishment. If you don't want me in your town, I'm going to go find something else to do. Life's too short. I'm not going to have the fight.
this is my last question, because I think a lot of people have a stereotypical view of developers wanting to bring every dime they can out of a project and then take their money and run. Why are you and other developers we'll talk to today willing to make a little less profit but provide homes for people who maybe don't make as much money but are needed?
I've always had an interest. David and I go back 30 years, I think, a long time. So I've always been interested. I'm very involved with the Home Builders Association and their government affairs and so forth. So I understand the need and the process. We've typically built single-family houses in the mid-price point. Today's market, 500 to 700,000 is typically what we've done. Built 500 or so houses, and I'm kind of at that stage in my career where I said, I don't need to do this anymore. I mean, I don't want to say I'm never going to do a job that doesn't make money, but I don't have to squeeze every dollar out. I just feel like there's a need. Why can't I use? I was put on this earth to build houses. That's it. You want to talk to me about education or healthcare? I got nothing to tell you. Okay? You want to talk about housing? I can talk to you all day about it. That's what I do, and I'm going to do that probably until I die, until my kids tell me to go away. So that's really why, but it still has to make economic sense. And like I said, the town was supportive. I know there's a need, and the economics work. I mean, this is, we're not doing this just because we're such nice guys. This is, finances do work.
Bob, you've been great.
Yep.
Thanks a lot for doing this, Amy.
If anybody has additional questions, David knows how to get a hold of me. He'll give you my email. Contact me. I'm happy to talk on this. This is what I do. I live and breathe this stuff.
Welcome to Old Oak Village. Old Oak Village in Wallingford, Connecticut is a model and a great example of mixed income development in the form of a single-family home community. Whereas most mixed income developments are multifamily apartments, townhomes, or duplexes, Old Oak Village is a perfect fit for larger properties, one that many home builders can develop and still make a reasonable profit while ensuring that 20 or 30% of the units will remain affordable to workers and families making 60 to 80% of the area median income. Old Oak Village was built 2 decades ago, and it looks better today than when it was first constructed, because it was beautifully designed and expertly built by the builder, and because since then there has been conscientious property management by the Wallingford Housing Authority. Those are the ingredients for a lasting, sustainable, beautiful mixed-income community. The 80 single-family homes are freestanding condominiums. Owners have the ability to plant and landscape around the immediate periphery of the homes. The Housing Authority maintains and plows the remaining property. Under the state's 8-30G statute, with willing cooperation by the town zoning commission, the developer built on a 26-acre property originally zoned as a design district. In that way, Old Oak Village is a good example of the opportunity many towns are employing to rezone commercial or industrial properties for residential uses. Under the 830G statute, 56 of the homes were initially sold and then have been resold at market rate. The other 24 were sold and have been resold at prices affordable to buyers earning 60 to 80% of the area median income level. The homes are roughly 1,500 square feet. They have 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, and 1-car garages. Town officials have called Old Oak Village a valuable addition to Wallingford's array of housing choices. It remains a beautiful, well-designed community that provides homes for private and public sector workers, young families, downsizing baby boomers, and other vital residents of the town.
Beautiful. We looked around earlier this summer, but he can explain to you how he decided to do this project and how he did it, and why, again, he's willing to make less money but provide affordable units for people.
54 of the 180 units are deemed affordable in connection with Connecticut's 8-30G program. And that means that 27 of them are affordable to people making area median income of 60% or less, and 27 of them are affordable to households making an income of 80% or less. 3,800 square foot clubhouse, which gets used very extensively. It has a catering kitchen. It has what we call a knowledge bar with Apple computing. It has a fitness center, and we have what we call a resort quality pool in the back, which was just shut down for the season. You want me to talk about the financing a little bit?
Yeah, I just wanted to answer your question because we talked about the issue of school children that everybody brings up. With all the one bedrooms and two bedrooms.
Generally speaking, that market rate housing we find on average generates around 10% of the units will generate, the units will generate around 10% of the children. So as rents increase, the number of school children and our understanding, 12. Okay. So this is Andrew Fish, one of my colleagues.
Out of how many?
180.
180 residents and 12 kids.
12 kids. And usually when you have an affordable component, that does increase it. So my guess is that well, I'm not going to guess, but I don't know where the breakdown is between how many of the affordable units. But what I was saying is that as rents increase, the number of the yield of school children goes down. Usually that's because people who pay a higher rent, they have a wider range of places that they can choose from. And in many cases, they want a single-family home. They don't want to be in a luxury rental community, albeit one that we think is wonderful. Permanent financing was done through Fannie Mae.
So what made this work was the density that 830G allowed you.
Well, what made this work was a couple of things. Number one was the density, because that puts the burden on the municipality to prove that for health and safety reasons, or for wetlands reasons, or for lack of availability for utilities, that any of those things are not met. This is not the case here. The other thing that helped substantially is that Milford's mill rate is about 27%. So we knew that the taxes would be fairly reasonable. Yeah, I'm from 8 miles away in Woodbridge. I grew up there, went to Amity High School. Obviously, Woodbridge has a different kind of municipality. I love it, but it has a different mill rate. It's in the 40s. So our taxes here of $3,700 a unit in Woodbridge would, at that time, would probably be well over $5,000 a year. So when you kind of do the math, although the rents would be strong, because Woodbridge has no or very little availability of affordable housing, it doesn't make up for the taxes. So taxes are a key component, and they're one of the elements are the rent, the taxes, the operating costs, which are largely the same no matter what town you're in, and the financing costs, which have gone up substantially, and the construction costs, which are up about, Andrew, 37 to 46% since COVID started. Our one-bedrooms rent, our market one-bedrooms rent for approximately $2,300 to $2,500 a month. Our two bedrooms rent for about $2,800 $850 to about $3,200, and 3 bedrooms are about $3,600 a month. So they're very expensive.
And the 60 and 80%.
They're at least about 12. Well, they're at least $1,200 less, if not more. I can follow up and give you the exact numbers.
Sure.
They're substantially different. So it's a great opportunity. So we thought this was a fairly, we thought it was a suitable site. We thought it was almost a perfect site for multifamily housing. We're 400 feet from any neighbors. Our proximity is to office. We're near a major interchange. We're near the Mara Parkway. We're a mile to 95. So we thought we were very well suited. They didn't see it that way.
Okay, if you want to show them the inside, I got to call the next person and tell them we're coming.
Would you do this again?
I would do this in a heartbeat again, in a good town. Yes, if I could make all the numbers work.
So despite the cost and everything that
Yes,
you just said,
but
this works for you.
It works for us. It's probably hard to work in this moment in time with interest rates
Because of
at
interest rates,
10%.
At the time, it worked a lot better because we were in a different economic environment.
But nothing works with these interest rates.
Nothing really works.
Director of Planning in Guilford, and he graciously agreed to come out and meet us here and explain the history and development of these infill units. So, Dave, I'll hand it over to you.
318 Meadowside. Your classic 830G application, single family zone. One of the good things I could say about this particular developer is, he does like his units to look nice. Relatively speaking to other developers in town who just want to throw up units.
Dave, did you say that the developer was?
It's a local developer. It's a guy who only works in Guilford. His name is Warren Field. His brother is also a developer, but they don't work together. His brother doesn't make units as nice as this one. Each one disagrees with the other. It's like, this is a waste of money, and the other one won't wait. That's their between them. So, like every other 830G in town, once it's built, we never hear from anybody ever again about any issues. I mean, the neighbors. What's kind of funny about this one is, I believe on the other side of this is an apartment complex, and people came out against this project from the apartment complex.
Saying what?
Not in my
Oh,
backyard.
it's going to ruin the neighborhood.
That's all they said.
It's going to ruin the neighborhood.
What are the configurations? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3
These are
bedroom?
2-bedroom townhouses.
2 bedroom
All
townhouse.
2-bedroom townhouses with the garage underneath.
How big are they?
They're roughly 1,200 square feet.
Rental or full room?
All rental. All rental.
And the 12 units here?
Yeah, 12 units. The building,
Twelve.
you'll notice that there are 3 units per building. That's to get around a building code. So if you have more than 3 units in a building, then they have to build to a different building code, which is more expensive. So you'll see that as a reoccurring theme. You should see it as a reoccurring theme everywhere in Connecticut because it's the same building code. And then same thing across the street. That has an interesting history because right next to it, when you leave, or you can go around on the other side of the bus.
Let's go walk over there.
You'll see a driveway.
How long apart were they built?
I would say 2 years, and Mr. Field developed this one first, and then I believe there was a different developer for this who sort of got it through the process, then decided because he wasn't a builder, decided not to build it, and then Mr. Field bought the project.
So he did some of the political hard stuff and then walked away?
Yeah, because it's really not that hard.
Okay.
Because it's 830G, so submit to us.
So the path is already written.
The path is already written. That's not to say that our planning board is happy about it. But by the time I think this one was approved, they were fairly comfortable with approving 830Gs.
That's the second one.
That's the second one, right?
Now that this stuff is built,
Yeah.
is there still public opposition? How do people feel about it?
No.
It's just part of the neighborhood?
It's part of the neighborhood.
Did
They're
you
small.
Huh? Yeah.
It's 12 units. 16
did you
units
require
and
the
12
garages?
We don't require. No, it's 830G. We can't require anything. So
It was their choice. It adds a lot to the
yeah,
price.
the developer who does these, he's very straightforward about saying, this is an investment for him. He builds these. This is his nest egg. He wants to build because he owns it. He's not going to sell them. They all say that. But he hasn't of all of the projects he's developed, he hasn't sold any. He just holds on to them because they generate income for him.
How many projects does he own in town?
5, at least 5 that immediately come to mind.
And they're all about this scale?
Yeah.
Dave, one last question. What are the demographics here? Who's living in these units? You know?
A couple of soccer players.
There was
a couple pros.
The last time I had a chat with them, people who work in restaurants, people who own pizza parlors. I mean, it's you name it. It's
Families, single kids. What are you talking about?
When you pulled in, there were a couple of kids who were out there playing. So I think it's a mixture. I don't know that there's a lot of kids, but there are kids that show single parent households with children. Secretaries.
What were on the properties prior to these developments? Were they single
family homes.
And did they merge lots?
Nope. They were just big single family homes. The lots.
They were long, deep lots.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that red house there, its lot is pretty wide, and to the corner there, and you could squeeze something like that in there, depending on the depth.
So those homes were taken down in order to build these?
Yep.
That's what we mean by infill.
Yeah.
So in some of your towns, that's what's going to be more palatable, or that will be the opportunity. You won't be able to build 40, 50, 60 units, but you'll be able to put 8 or 12 in certain locations. And if they're nicely designed, people will, drive by them and say, "Oh, that looks nice." It won't be an eyesore. Well, thank you, Dave. We appreciate it. So there you have it. We've tried to show people different configurations in different places done by different builders, and we want people to understand that there are many different ways to solve their affordable housing needs and satisfy the wide range of housing choices that healthy towns need. So we hope you enjoyed this tour, and we hope you show it to all the people in your towns so that they can get a sense of what we all saw today.
So now I'd like everyone to break out into small groups. We're kind of gathered in sets of 4, or you might join a group of 5 back there, just kind of turn toward each other. And we'd love for you to discuss what you've seen and if you have thoughts about it. And then we'll have a share back time. So if you want to take the next. Oh, yes, thank you, Peter. Peter's reminding me to remind you that you can use these questions as a guide, and we'd love to have some of these answers so that we know what you're thinking on these particular questions. But if you have other questions or ideas, you're welcome to mention them. Now, after we do the share back, we will then have a general question and answer period for about 20 minutes. So take, about 10 minutes now, and we'll call you back together at 8 o'clock. Okay, folks. We have commissioners floating about the room, maybe sitting in your group talking with you. We hope they've helped facilitate your conversation. We also would like to hear now from your group And if you've picked a spokesperson or would like to just shout out, but we would love to hear your voice, and not everything necessarily filtered through a commissioner, but they are there with you to help the share back if you are extraordinarily shy. So any way you slice it. What types of affordable housing would you like to encourage in Guilford? Has this inspired you in any way? And for those of you who've been at the prior meeting in May, or the one that we held last fall in November, tell us what you would like to encourage for affordable housing in Guilford. Yes.
The group that we had, we were talking, in general, our group was supportive of affordable housing with a primary focus to provide opportunities for younger families, younger individuals to be in this community. We were discussing what we saw. Like, it seemed like what the video was showing types of facilities that Guilford can't support because it doesn't have the sewage or the land capability. We brought up ADUs, and I'd be curious to have a focus group that was specifically focused on ADUs, because I've looked into it and it seems like Guilford has some specific rules that seem somewhat uniquely restrictive, and it seems like that was one of the places we could move more quickly to provide that type of space.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to repeat it just for the recording. We have group number 1 here bravely volunteered that they are supportive of affordable housing, especially for young families who want to live in Guilford. They're discussing the visuals that they saw today, the examples, noting that we are not on sewer and water systems in Guilford, so that obviously is a clear problem to developing affordable housing, and we can address that in a future meeting, how we might overcome some of that. And also their interest in learning more about ADUs, which we will address in a future meeting. But those are great topics for us to focus on. Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I add our, we also had a discussion and misunderstandings about capital A affordable and affordable, meaning legally affordable versus I can pay for that. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand that there's a difference. There's a legal constraint to affordable in deeded requirements, and then there's ADUs, which are probably will never qualify legally as affordable.
Yes, so we will define ADUs when we get into the weeds a little bit more, and the difference between the 830G, capital A, affordable housing, and what we are trying to shift into talking about housing that is affordable. And I would just point out there that in Guilford, our area median income, which is what guides that number, is about $99,000. So when you're talking about capital A affordable housing, that is the income level that triggers what makes it affordable. And 80%, 60%, 20%, anything lower than that would be that capital A affordable housing. ADUs, we need to look into how to make ADUs deed restricted, if indeed we can. It's probably possible, but it will take some research and some legal advice to do that. So we can't just speak to it here tonight, but we are looking into that as well. Thank you. Anyone from any other group? No? Okay, down here. Yukon, go Yukon.
More affordable senior housing, because the last project that we saw in the video,
Mhm.
that's too many stairs because you're going into the garage, but you have to go up 12, 13 stairs, and then that's just to the main level, and then you've gotta go back, go another 12 stairs up to the third floor.
Mhm. So that's a very important concern that you've raised about senior housing and accessibility. And there are state and federal regulations that address how a developer would include affordable, accessible housing for seniors and so forth. And in Guilford Village West, for instance, and in the first set of units you saw, those accessible units are on the ground floor. So they don't have that stair concern. Yes, Valerie?
This group here, I have to let you know, are some of our local real estate professionals.
Ah.
So they not only have to understand it for themselves and what their future is in town, they've got to sell it to other people.
Mhm.
So I think, listening
Okay.
to that is probably something they hear pretty regularly.
Absolutely. So make sure you've signed up to be included and have our email so that you can contact us.
One of the things for Guilford that I keep thinking about is safety zone.
Safety?
That must already have water, must already have some type of a septic or sewer system. So why not convert that? That's a big empty building. And how many more commercial buildings or investors are gonna come in and want to use that building? So that could be made into something really nice.
So here we have a question about a specific parcel of land on Hubbard Road where a light industrial site for safety, the building property formerly held by safety zone, and what's going to become of that. And I don't know if there's anything in the works with the town or the Economic Development Commission, who would be, one of the advocates for finding a replacement business. But yes, that's something that we are looking at, and we'll learn more as the story unfolds, so to speak.
That substitution of commercial properties for residential is something the governor is advocating at this time. He's got a bill on his desk. It has not been signed as of the last 3 hours, but we are hoping by Friday he will see what to do with it. And it is trying to ask towns to encourage the use of non-used commercial spaces as potential for residential, but I'm gonna throw it out there again. The limitations are going to be being able to accomplish density so that it's still profitable, coupled with the fact that we are, in many cases, not connected to water and sewer, so we limit space by community septic and well. If we then have to do an engineered system for septic, we're adding to cost, which then again affects the affordability. So we've got to, there's things being advanced that could be helpful, but we have to be cognizant of the limitations.
What is the number of the bill, Valerie?
You know what, I don't remember it off the top
Is
of my
that
head.
the HB?
5,002?
HB 5002 is the bill that is yet to be signed by the governor, and that will.
Fair. And he's a great advocate. They are fine tuning it, as I understand
Yeah.
it. I'm deferring to all
Okay,
the
but you know there's
political
some
people.
issues about the parking.
Right, right.
So that's not, the best. There may be portions of it, but.
Right. And just to speak to the parking, it's something that our community would face.
Right, because parking on the street.
Because, yeah,
They have to provide
advocating,
enough parking.
they're advocating diminishing the number of required parking spaces.
Right.
Which is going to be difficult if you are a smaller town that does not have, available parking on the street. We don't, most of our streets don't. So again, that is something they are reworking, because that is something that was brought up. A number of smaller towns have advanced I don't wanna call them arguments, suggestions where.
Well, it's practicality, I don't want
It's
somebody parking in front of my house.
It's health and safety, it goes back to that very same thing, safety issue.
How hard is it though? I mean, has anybody addressed connecting from Branford to Guilford, at least on Route 1?
So-
Connecting sewer and water.
So
And
this-
then you have, what, Clinton, I think, has water, city.
So the connection to Branford has come up over the years a number of times. And for some reason, it historically has not been pursued. More recently, we've heard that Branford is at capacity, and therefore this puts a damper on any discussion of connecting to them. I believe, and our Town Hall South people are not here tonight, but they are looking with all their might into new technology, but for both septic systems and wastewater treatment for larger situations. And the town is looking at infrastructure possibilities as well. So I know that stuff is in the works. I don't have any details
No, that's
on it.
good to know, at least they're looking at it.
And of course, building an infrastructure system takes a lot of time and money, so it's not an overnight fix. Having a developer who can put his own financing or state financing into it, that would be a much faster fix. But it does keep the cost of construction very high. So, any other questions? I hear, Pete, are you nurturing a question back there?
Well, we've been talking about, the challenges of, so thanks for asking. The challenges of both, creating affordable housing here and building momentum and getting it off the ground. That a lot of the progress we make here is pretty incremental. And Liz, right? It's been searching for something and, is not finding that we're making progress. So, how do we change that? How do we move things forward? We were talking about some of these questions here. And, she would like to own a place. She'd like to have something similar to, the Great Hill Cottages, Great Hill Commons. And was close to getting to one of those, but didn't, was too far down the list. And we'd like to see us create more opportunities along those lines.
Thank you, Liz, for coming again, because this isn't this your second or third meeting with us? Yes. And as you may realize, all of you, all of us, even on the commission, all of these creation of affordable housing is a long time process. It's got a deep horizon, and the fastest way to creation of housing is full market rate housing, where a for-profit developer gets the biggest buck. We have in town now, since 2024, the revised planning and zoning regs, which include a provision for affordable housing for anyone building more than 5 units in town in any residential area. And that has led to our first, let's call it our first plan, that is Guilford Village West. That's the 162 units, and 12% of those units will be affordable in that plan. If the plan is, I'm sure it will be finally approved. But that's only 20-something units. So out of 160. So it is a slow process, and we need to find ways, and that's part of what our commission has on its plate, to try to find ways to expedite production, encourage developers to come so that they find good parcels of buildable land, and we can help them perhaps package some financing and give them some incentives to address this housing crisis issue. So,
Could you just repeat that last piece? I'm sorry.
which last?
Financing.
Financing. Help developers get their financing from a lot of, as you can imagine, traditional outlets, the state, the feds, banks, investors, so on and so forth. Well, the minute they start to have an affordable housing component, that brings in and they get financing specifically for that, it comes with, those monies come with requirements in order to have that money. So, but that's when I'm talking about putting a package together, that's what I'm talking about. If we can help by expressing to the town and to the state what our needs in Guilford are and what the developers who want to build in Guilford need to build in Guilford, then we can help them, help you, the developers, and the people who want to live here, bring the housing prices into the affordability level. So, yes.
Just one other question about that space in particular. I mean, if there was, as recent as 2024, modifications to encourage affordable housing, you're talking about 160 units, what drives it having to only have 12% affordable housing? I mean, is it absolutely that scale of profit that would not allow for more than 12%?
No, we do have incentive zones in Guilford where the density is 20% of affordable. If they're building, they can increase the density. And we have also the 830G provisions, which is a state regulation that provides that if the town unreasonably refuses to approve a plan, the developer can appeal to the state to step outside of the town regulations, and that would require the developer then to include 30% affordable housing in his development plan. So it's kind of a sliding scale. We talked about it at the time when we were thinking about what we wanted to put in the provisions. We talked about 10%. We realized that 10% really leaves us at stasis. 12% helps us, but for every single individual house that goes up on a 4-acre or 1-acre parcel, there's no requirement to provide affordable housing if you're building 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 units. So, we can lose that 10% base requirement that the state's looking for. And we had like 2.18%, and now we're up to 2.33% towards that 10% requirement. Whereas when we had some housing go up, it reduced from the original 2.22%. So it fluctuates with the number of units being built that are full market rate, that are not including an affordable percentage. Yes, Alex.
So speaking for some of our guests here, Lisa and Myra, there is some concern, and I know that you guys don't have the answer to this, but this is something that they want to know about in these kinds of things. Who is accepted from the applicants to live in these developments. Income is not the only dimension of exclusion, and they think that it's important to be very straightforward about the demographics of who is in these developments, and that they are truly open to everyone who might apply. And so this is additional information they would like to see. Obviously, this is a strong thing, but like that's important to them.
Okay, I hate to tell you, Alex, that's what I just spent the last 3 hours
Valerie,
talking about.
Valerie, would
Let's all
you
go
come up
through.
here so that it?
Okay, I'm gonna take this. I happen to be a real estate lawyer and sitting on this commission. I just spent 3 wonderful hours with the ladies over here going through a fair housing class with them, okay? These are real estate professionals. Fair housing related regulations fall across the board. There are no exceptions in the town of Guilford. There are no exceptions. They are federal and they are state related. The state of Connecticut is actually more intensely focused on this than the federal regulations. There is no one who is a member of a protected class who can be discriminated against in housing in this state. The way that people are going to be taken as applicants for rental housing will be through the companies that are building or the real estate agents that are giving them, that are making these units available. There's 2 different methods and means of rentals that can be utilized when these things are constructed. They can be done through, as I said, the builder themselves, which will mean they have someone who's on their marketing team who will be taking applications and who will be reviewing the documentation that is provided in support of the application. So there is no way to discriminate against someone if they have a lawful source of income, okay? And that does not necessarily mean that they work a 9-to-5 job and get a paycheck. Lawful source of income. The only thing that can be taken into consideration is whether they can afford to be there based on certain criteria. So who they are, what they do, where they derive their money cannot be taken into consideration, right? And the application process needs to be blind in that sense. So the safeguards are here through the laws in this state, and no one can really deviate from them. Did I answer your question, or do we need to go further here?
You answered my question to an extent, but as an activist, and I'm not a resident of Guilford, so I can only speak from experience of where my area is. Those things are all put into place, but then there's also said barriers created, like when you say application. In areas where we are, they elicit an application fee for everyone who's gonna live in that house that's over age 18. If you're already income compromised, having to pay an additional application fee for, say, yourself and maybe your child that's over 18, that's another barrier to getting into, that's what is.
I hear that you're saying it's a barrier, and I hope everyone understands why that is done. You have a legal adult that is going to be accessing the unit, okay? That means if an eviction has to occur, that legal adult has to be addressed as part of the eviction process. Similarly, if you are going to include in your application income derived from some work that legal adult is doing, again, they are another person that needs to be included in an application.
But Val, a second application fee is I think what Lisa was saying. She's not arguing about whether it needs to be documented.
Right.
It's the double application.
They're paying for the processing of the application. Generally, it's generally done through a program and a company, and therefore each time you are adding additional information involving an adult, they have to pay for it again. So they're just passing fees on.
And it's not padded, it's just by law, just a pass.
It's not by law, that's just, I mean, it's not improper by law for the reasons I'm stating. There's a cost associated with it. And in order to
work through the process. If there is the unfortunate event of an eviction, there has to be on file information about the adults that are there. So you might have your child there, they might be a student, they might have a second job, you might have included that on income, or you might have a student living with you whose income has not been taken into consideration. But in order for them to be there and in order for them to be properly evicted, we have to know who would be there. So they're actually working from the perspective of what will have to be known at a later time. So again, I would like to say that it's done and to be, because it's, being done for nefarious reasons, but the reality is they're passing on administrative costs
And that's
onto
what
you.
I mean by barrier, that additional cost to someone who's looking for affordable housing. Now I have another step to accomplish that goal of trying to find something affordable, and that's another. I
hear you, and I'm going to pass it along also that that's not done across the board. I mean, that is not done in every case, but it is, again, not looked at quite the same way. And I think that we're pointing out something very important right now. We all come at this from a different direction, and we kind of need to give each other a little bit of grace on this, okay? And I mean that quite seriously. Not all people do things that are good, and not all people do things intentionally that are bad. So we just have to keep the dialogue open. It's a point well taken. It's not illegal, it's arguably not improper, but it does have a disparate impact on certain people. Let's be honest.
This could be something that affordable housing commissions or local foundations could have set up to help defray the application costs, and certainly
I think
the
that's a great idea.
fee for an applicant that they otherwise would be able to afford. But this is that problem of the down payment, right? So this is the equivalent of the down payment. This is a relatively small amount of money that could be used to help people who are in good faith applying for this housing and could afford to live there if they could just apply in time.
Point well taken, and maybe that's a step we need to take, that we have sort of a separate arm that is help for these things, because it is not something we probably take into consideration when we're looking this on a greater scale. Just, can I say one more thing while I'm standing up here? Like, they gave me the microphone and I don't shut up. These ladies know. One of the things I'm also going to say is I heard someone say we're not making enough progress quickly enough. Did you hear even the friendly 830G programs? They asked how long it took. He said 3 to 4 years. So understand that even the friendly ones, the process as it exists and the construction is 3 to 4 years. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces to advancing these things.
Thank you, Valerie. So we're at our time, 8:30. If you have additional questions, please see Barb over at the table. She's got some little white, pink papers there you can write a question on, and or if you want us to call you specifically or get back to you. But we do publish a newsletter. We try to do it, I think, every 4 to 6 months, but we hope as a new commission we'll get it up and running a little bit more regularly, and we will address some of your questions there. We will address some of your questions in another public community conversation, and our calendar is both, our immediate calendar is on the table, and you can see our schedule of meetings on the town website. So please do reach out to us. And as a last thing, I'd like to make a plug for the town's plan of conservation and development. There will be a workshop tomorrow at 10 in the...
It's on Zoom.
On Zoom, and there is also going to be a public conversation as their second community workshop will be up in North Guilford at the fire department. Doesn't mean that if you don't live in North Guilford you can't go there. And that will be on the planning and zoning town website for the plan of conservation and development. So please go to that
to the planning and zoning plan of conservation page. Fill out the survey about your concerns for the plans and so forth that we're all looking at for the next 10 years in Guilford, and fill out the survey. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.